Is a chest freezer like the Summit EL41LT actually worth it for a typical household? Or is it something only serious bulk shoppers, small business owners, or medical hobbyists should consider? Who should skip it? And does the price line up with the everyday value you get? Those are the questions that keep most people up at night before they click Add to Cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When you first see a chest freezer advertised with 45C operation and ULS listed to NSF standards, it feels like you're buying a piece of industrial equipment. The hesitation usually comes from three places: the upfront cost, the space it will take in a garage or basement, and the worry that you'll end up with a freezer that's either too big for your needs or too small to make the investment worthwhile. I've been down that road with several freezers over the past decade, so I know how easy it is to overestimate your storage needs or underestimate the daily hassle of loading and unloading a deep chest. Let's start with the kind of people who actually get the most out of this unit. If you run a small catering operation, a home-based bakery, or even a community health clinic that needs a reliable spot for vaccine storage, the Summit's ability to stay at 45C is a game-changer. Most residential freezers top out around 18C, which is fine for meat and frozen veggies, but it's not cold enough for certain pharmaceuticals or for long-term preservation of high-value perishables. The fact that the freezer meets NSF commercial standards means it's been vetted for more rigorous sanitation and temperature consistency than your average kitchen appliance, giving you peace of mind that a batch of vaccines or a bulk order of specialty ingredients won't slip out of spec. For the everyday family, the value proposition shifts. Imagine a household of four that does weekly bulk grocery trips, freezes large batches of homemade soup, and wants to keep a steady supply of frozen desserts for the kids. The extra-thick 4-inch insulation in the Summit model translates to slower temperature swings when you open the lid, which means less freezer burn and a more stable environment for those long-term meals. The digital thermostat with an external control panel also lets you fine-tune the temperature without having to crawl inside the freezer to adjust the dial. That kind of precision can save you a few dollars a year on the electric bill, because the unit doesn't have to work overtime to recover after each opening. Now, who should probably walk away? If you live in a small apartment with just a kitchenette and a closet, the sheer footprint of a chest freezer, typically about 30 inches wide and 30 inches deep, can be a nightmare. Even if you have a garage, the weight of the unit when it's full, easily over 200 pounds, can make moving it a two-person job. Also, if you're looking for a freezer that can double as a walk-in cooler for parties or a temporary extra fridge for a few extra drinks, the chest design isn't ideal. You have to bend over every time you want to grab something, and you can't see what's inside without pulling the lid up. One practical weakness that shows up in real-world use is the lock. The factory-installed lock is solid, which is great for security in a commercial setting, but it also means you need a key every time you want to open it. If you misplace that key, you're stuck. Some owners have reported having to drill out the lock after a few years of use, a hassle you probably don't want to plan for. The digital thermostat is another double-edged sword. While it gives you precise control, the external display can be hard to read in a dimly lit garage, and a power outage will reset the settings unless you have a backup battery, which isn't included. Energy consumption is another hidden trade-off. Chest freezers are generally more efficient than upright models because cold air stays at the bottom, but the Summit's extra insulation means the compressor runs less often, good news for the electric bill. However, the unit's commercial-grade compressor can draw a noticeable amount of power when it does kick on, especially if you're running it at the lower 45C setting. If you're on a tight budget for utilities, you might want to keep the freezer at a more moderate temperature for food storage and only dip down to 45C when you truly need it for vaccines or specialized items. So, let's break down the decision matrix. Buy the Summit EL41LT if you need a temperature range that goes well below standard.